So, a few weeks ago, in May of this year, news were in circulation of an eruption by the people on the streets of Douala and Yaoundé in Cameroon. On May 31st, Cameroonian opposition leader Maurice Kamto led a rally at Place de la République in Paris. The event aimed at mobilizing the diaspora to advocate for political change ahead of the upcoming elections in Cameroon. Earlier in May of this year again, members of the southern Cameroonian diaspora held a significant protest in Ottawa in Canada, demanding an end to President Paul Biya's regime and highlighting ongoing issues in the Anglophone regions. Ladies and gentlemen, incidents including attacks by separatist fighters and operation by Cameroonian forces also occurred, leading to multiple casualties and arrests. For instance, on May 14th of this year, security forces reportedly conducted an operation in Pinyin, resulting in 5 deaths. If you care to know why these incidents are happening, ladies and gentlemen, well, it's because the country is stagnated. Nothing of significant development is happening there in Cameroon. Cameroon isn't developing because in the last 42 years, they've had one president leading their way. Paul Biya, the guy who has led for 42 years, and the people have had enough, and we are in support of them. They demand the resignation of their president, Paul Biya, who has been in office for more than half of the age of the population and still counting. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a presidential election coming up in October of this year in Cameroon, and the people are anticipating that the 92-year-old man may seek re-election. The man cannot walk properly and is usually without self-awareness. His condition is similar to former President Biden of America, but this time even worse. The suspicion is that in the worst case scenario, where his health doesn't permit him to run in the elections, he may do what Nasingbe Eyadema did in Togo. He will replace himself with his son, ladies and gentlemen. He has a son by name Franck Biya. This guy had kept low profile for many years until he recently stepped into the political spotlight. Since around 2020, Franck Biya has become more visible in Cameroonian politics, attending key state events and meetings with influential politicians and business figures. Ladies and gentlemen, he is 54 years old and doesn't hold any government position at this point. He is a private businessman in the field of logging and real estate. He is the one most people suspect might replace his father. When that happens, ladies and gentlemen, which we'd hope that it doesn't happen, Cameroon will have to buckle up for another 30 to 40 years under his rule. And the reason is simple. Paul Biya, his father, is alleged to have committed the entire leadership of the country into swearing a secret oath to protect him and whoever he puts there as president, so long as these people continue to hold their positions. Ladies and gentlemen, meaning that so long as these heads of government institutions and departments in the military, police, immigration, and all should continue to fill their positions, they are obliged by oath to protect Paul Biya and his family. This is what is alleged. This explains why, for many decades, in the midst of agitations and separatist enforcement, nothing of real threat has ever come close to ousting him. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it's important that the people of Cameroon take their destiny into their own hands before this window of African revolution closes. And I'm talking about now. I therefore want to take this opportunity to speak to the people of Cameroon. Your October elections are coming, and you have a decision to make, a decision that can either maintain the status quo or change it altogether forever. You have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that the problem isn't just about Paul Biya. No, the problem is about all the people who have worked under him, especially those whose appointments came directly from him. These people are equally as problematic as the President Biya himself. If a change must come to Cameroon, it has to be a change of president, parliament, ministers, and a change for all the heads of security fabric of that country. It must be a thorough change, and not just the president. If that doesn't happen, I'll be honest with you, you wouldn't have touched the root of your problems. We see what Captain Traoré is doing in Burkina Faso with authority. But this authoritarian regime of Cameroon isn't what we are fighting for. Your president is a puppet of France and Macron. They have kept him and protected him all these years in exchange for petroleum gas, crude petroleum, timber, wood products, and cocoa products. This has been his business with France. This is how the president's son, Franck Biya, has made his wealth. He exports a lot of timber to France. Franck is a multimillionaire and his father's wealth is unknown. Paul Biya, ladies and gentlemen, is alleged to have multiple million euro homes in Paris and in south of France. He and members in his inner circle is also alleged to hold assets in Monaco worth hundreds of millions of euros. He reportedly stays for months at a time at this 5-star hotel in Geneva, Switzerland. And most times he occupies an entire floor costing $40,000 plus per night for security alone. Hotel Intercontinental Geneva is actually dubbed by many as Cameroon's second presidential palace due to his frequent and extended stays, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Biya doesn't live in his country, Cameroon. He hardly stays in Cameroon. He is widely known for spending significant portions of the year outside of Cameroon, particularly in Switzerland, earning him international criticism for absentee leadership. Reports over the last 10 to 15 years suggest he has spent only 2 to 4 months per year on average physically in Cameroon. Therefore, he doesn't get to see what actually goes on in his own country anymore, ladies and gentlemen. The only time he stayed for an extended period in Cameroon was during the 2021 COVID lockdown. From 2006 to 2018, he stayed between 3 to 6 months away in Geneva per year. In fact, in 2019, he stayed for more than 4 months straight in Geneva, causing activists to protest in Geneva. When he's not in Switzerland, he's in France, and vice versa. He works with the French government directly every day on France's plan for Cameroon and Africa in return for protection. He has put things in a way so much so that he doesn't need to be in his country to be felt or feared, because he has coons who by secret oath have sworn to watch behind for him. His secret police and investigative units are scattered across the country, disguised as drunks and normal people, fishing information on the streets for him. You can therefore never be sure of who you are talking with in Cameroon. He's old and absent, but super feared in his country. Cameroon, with a population of 28.6 million people, has a poverty rate of 37%, and especially among the Anglophone regions. There is a profound divide within the country between the French-speaking Cameroonians and the English-speaking Cameroonians. Ambazonia, which is a separatist region established in 1884, comprising the northwest and the southwest, has since 2017 been fighting for their independence for lack of inclusion. Their situation is similar to Biafra in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, Cameroon is not doing particularly well under Paul Biya. They have a GDP of $53.4 billion with a GDP per capita of $1,865. In 1982, when Paul Biya took over as president, Cameroon had a GDP of $14 billion and a population of 9.7 million people. So, in the last 42 years under Paul Biya, Cameroon's economy has grown by approximately $1.3 billion on average in that time frame, ladies and gentlemen. That is for year on year. And as of 2025, Cameroon has approximately 10,225 kilometers of paved roads, which constitute 8.5% of the country's total road network of 121,837 kilometers, ladies and gentlemen. This is just bad by all standards. When you compare Cameroon to its contemporaries, like the Ivory Coast and Ghana, they are so left behind in terms of paved roads. And you know, with paved roads comes development. That is where development begins. Ivory Coast has about 82,000 kilometers of paved roads, and Ghana has about 94,000 kilometers of paved roads. The one difference amongst these three countries is Ghana and Ivory Coast have had some changes in leadership, and Cameroon have had none in the last 42 years. Ladies and gentlemen, it cannot be that only one man or one family has what it takes to rule a country. So like I said earlier, elections are 4 months away, and the people of Cameroon will have to determine their own fate moving forward. It will require vigilance and patriotism and hard work to ensure that the elections are not stolen. Ladies and gentlemen, Cameroon is a beautiful country with elegant beaches and people and cultures. You have so much potential with all your resources, and that can never be realized until there is a real change in your country. You need a change of president and a change of heads of all government departments and ministries, because they are all compromised. If there is ever a time for any African country to rise up and demand the best, that time is now. And this goes to Cameroon. Your time is now. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to all those who make the time to watch my videos, and many thanks to those who share them. Be kind to subscribe if you haven't done that already, and click on the button as well. Let's hear from you in the comment section. I'll come your way with another one very soon. Until then, God bless Africa and God bless Cameroon. It is bye-bye for now.